welcome to Decisions and Revisions, essentially the NOC report, right? So who the hell are we? My name is Neil Wyler. In this community, I'm better known as Grifter. By day, my day job is I am a threat hunter with RSA. By night, I run all the on-site technical operations for the Black Hat security briefings for the last 17 years. I am also on the review board, both the CFP and training. I'm also one of the main organizers of DEF CON. I've written some books. I present all over the world. That's supposed to make you want to listen to me.
We need to change the flow of this, because you always go first and say what you've done, and then I feel bad about myself.
You know, hey.
I'm Bart. Hi, guys.
You're my friend. That's enough.
I'm Bart Stump. By day, I am a senior security consultant with Optiv. Obviously here, I've been doing this with Grifter for about 11 years now. I haven't wrote any books. I do some other fun things, though, and I like video games. Hey.
What's your favorite video game right now?
I don't know. There's a lot. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Don't make it
I'm
weird.
playing the Pokemons. All right. Yeah. So let's keep going. All right. So we said we run the NOC here, but we don't do that alone. We have multiple partners who are in the NOC. The reason we have NOC partners is because when I initially started doing things with the NOC, we did everything homegrown, right? So we wrote scripts, we used OpenBSD boxes, we had Socris boxes running PF, we had random stuff that would call home to us just to tell us that portions of the network were alive. We just kind of went that route. That doesn't scale when you go from my first Black Hat US show that I did was 1,200 people. This year we had 20,000 people at the US show. So a few years back we were essentially saying, well, this doesn't work, we should figure something else out.
So those were interesting times that we were staying up, 48 hours to make sure that the show was running by the time everybody showed up. And so we decided to go talk to some people and see if we could make this a little easier on ourselves as well as others. So as you can see, everybody that's here is, as Grifter kind of emphasized a couple of times, partners. So that's the other thing that we try and make sure that everybody's aware of. So none of these partners have paid or done anything else to be in the NOC. So myself, Grifter, and Steve Finks, who is our principal architect, is we make these decisions as a customer. We go to these, we have gone to these partners and asked them to provide equipment for the show, as well as expertise. So they also bring people to help on site, set up, maintain, troubleshoot, et cetera, anything that has to do with their equipment. So,
yeah, which was kind of a bonus because we weren't expecting to get people also sent with it. We were just hoping that someone would give us any kind of gear, and then they gave us gear and support, and we were like,
which we're happy to learn things, but then looking back as well, it actually has helped in quite a few cases that, the amount of time that it would take us to go through and troubleshoot something when that's not what we do every single day. It definitely is. They're a team and they're partners. So,
but again, partners, not sponsors, right? So we choose the equipment that we use. We think this is the best stuff that we can use to stabilize and defend the network here at Black Hat. We have been approached by vendors before who have said, we'll give you this ungodly amount of money if you'll use our equipment in the NOC so that we can put our logos on things and say that we secure the NOC at Black Hat. And that's just not a thing. We're not interested in taking that money. In fact, we'll say, why don't you take that money you're trying to give us and hire some more developers to make your product not shit, and then maybe we'll choose it. So this is what we think is good. This is the team. So again, we're up here yammering on. But we took this earlier today, so this is the team that was in the NOC throughout the week. So you can see we're not there alone. I look like a potato. I take the
It's not just
photos.
in pictures.
Is that not just in pictures? Damn it. The camera adds one potato.
So architecture. As I said, Steve Finks, our principal architect, he and I, as well as Grifter, obviously, but we dig into the architecture and do this show to show. There are different, obviously, unique situations between the venues that we go to around the world. That's exactly what it looks like, and we do that on purpose. So, in a way, the architecture doesn't look as fancy, and people kind of give us weird looks, and our approach is definitely the keep it simple, stupid. We're more of, if you couldn't tell, funny about it. But for the most part, these international shows are a lot flatter, if you will. So there's not many fancy lines, so we don't get into that. However, I will tell you,
Don't act like you... I ask him for a diagram.
They
like
would never ask that
every
question.
Every show. I'm like, hey man, will you give me the architecture diagram so I can add it into the deck? And he's like, I don't have one. And so I put this in every time he doesn't have one. This picture.
Go look at the U.S. show. We have huge architects. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate
again, it is much flatter. There is a lot that we get into and that changes as far as that go. However, what I'll tell you is that again, Palo Alto's our core. Gigamon basically. And we always feel bad. Gigamon provides plenty more as a platform in what they do. We essentially use them as a tap because span ports, for the amount of traffic that we deal with, obviously is not the easiest way to go. You have issues there. So Gigamon providing tap. I forgot.
That's all right.
Palo Alto is our core. Gigamon provides all the taps that we use to provide those feeds, that data to our tools. RSA is our intelligence platform, the entire NetWitness suite, so logs, packets, and endpoints. As you can see here, this is the amount of equipment that they bring. So there are pallets of devices that show up in some cases with the US show, but there's definitely an investment, as you can see here. Ruckus. The strike through me. So Ruckus provides our wireless. This year we had 22 APs, but there was one that was KIA on the show floor that got ran over by a forklift.
It happens.
It happened. Cisco provides us with both Threat Grid for malware analysis as well as Umbrella for all the DNS and DNS analysis, as well as, I didn't miss anybody, Palo, Cisco, Ruckus, RSA, Gigamon. So,
but you did miss, we don't have it on the slide, that RSA also provides our identity and access management piece. We'll get into why we needed that here shortly. So if you had a chance to go into the NOC, by the way, you were allowed to come in, not past the glass, which I think only like
5 people this year.
Yeah, I don't know, like people that try to get in. It was a handful this show. Usually people are like rolling into the NOC trying to get inside. But you could totally come in and take a look at the dashboards and things that we had up. The one that's in the center here, I'll start it again. Is the one that people are always the most interested in, right? Especially executives, right? They're like, "Ooh, what's that? That's shiny as hell." And so that's it's OIP. Essentially, what it is the chattiest hosts that are on the network and what they're doing. The green is TCP, the red is UDP, and then ICMP shows up in white. You can see that in certain cases, the traffic is thicker in different areas. That's just by volume, the amount of traffic that's taking place. And what this is it's actually useful. It's not just like, wee, pew, pew, pew.
We did put ThreatBud up there before. That's
it. But it's just a visual indicator for us that there is a significant amount of traffic going on between certain hosts, or when we see scanning, it just looks like fireworks. So we'll see just a starburst going out to all these other hosts on the network, and we're like, what's that guy doing? And we pivot to NetWitness, and we take a look at that particular IP address, and we do write every packet that traverses the network to disk. All of that data is destroyed at the end of the show. We recommit at every Black Hat that we do this NOC report and presentation that data is destroyed, right? We wouldn't want our data mined. We have also been offered significant sums of money to have that data. We assure you, our employers pay us enough that we don't have to take that. And we're just not that greedy.
We're just as much in the community, and again, one of you.
We're one of you, right? So we're all peers. I wouldn't want somebody selling off my data either, and so that data is wiped at the end of each show. We use it to develop some reports, or if we see something that's genuinely bad, then we can do investigations on it. And that is our challenge, right? Is finding the bad within the bad. When you come to a show like Black Hat, you will see the types of traffic from moment to moment that would normally trigger an incident response scenario at your company, right? Usually it's everybody's freaking out. Here, that's just the traffic you guys create, right?
We'll get into some things here in a bit about some incidents and different things that we investigated. But for example, there's things that you're digging in and we find some API fuzzing, and then you're like, oh, this looks really cool. And then to see how dejected they become when they see that it was in the API fuzzing class, everybody's like, oh. So it's genuinely one of those things that, again, if you were to see that anywhere else in any normal environment, alarms would be raised, CISOs would be woke up, and different things to that extent. That we have to be able to go through that and understand the bad versus the good bad.
It's what we describe it as finding a needle in a needle stack, right? We're looking for a specific needle in a stack of needles. And so what we're normally looking for is stuff that is either directly targeting like our core infrastructure, the registration network, which to us is the crown jewels. If we lose your private information for the
data.
Yeah,
all of our data.
Mine's in there too. But if you run a security conference and all of the registration data is out for the top security researchers in the world, they stop coming to your conference. So that's the crown jewels. We really try hard to make sure that any traffic and things that are happening on registration is watched very closely. We also are looking for things that are just flat out attacks, right? Somebody is doing something where they're specifically targeting another attendee. It doesn't look like a demo. It's not something where they're just showing off a tool. It's legitimately malicious. That is difficult, but that's part of the fun.
The third piece would be towards the interwebs, which you guys definitely learn some new techniques and try to use that as well.
Seriously, every show, there's somebody in a training class that is like, I learned a thing. I'll point it at the internet, and you're like, damn it, dude. Like there was at the US show this year, somebody was in a web hacking class and they learned some new tools and they pointed it at what turned out to be the law enforcement agency of their home city and their website. And I was just like, really? The cops, like that's where you went immediately I know.
And you wouldn't
the
do
cops.
that at home, so
yeah.
Make us offend you either.
We see a lot of that kind of stuff too. We try to keep you guys honest and out of jail. We don't really call people out individually, but we'll just go into the class and we'll be like, guys, still illegal. Okay.
And then you see a laptop close.
Yeah, there's like somebody's like, or boop, boop. Stop doing that. So here's just some more dashboards, Cisco Threat Grid. So we see as malware is coming in or traffic's coming in, it's identified as something that could potentially be malware. It's passed from NetWitness into Threat Grid, which it then goes into a sandbox or glove box, which allows us to interact with that executable or potential malware and see what it does. Right? Is this actually something that's bad? I have seen people try to be like, oh, look at me, I'm going to DOS Threat Grid, and they throw hundreds, if not thousands, of malware samples at it, and it's just like, it's in the cloud. It just goes doop, 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 and just keeps firing up more instances. It doesn't care. It's like, throw whatever you want at it. Also, this is a dashboard here for Threat Connect, which we just started using at this show. So I don't have a lot to say about it because I haven't used it enough to give you guys any feedback, but it does lay things out in a nice little MITRE attack framework type of deal, and we're going to wrap our arms around that one in the coming shows. So watch this space. We'll give you our reviews shortly.
All right, so network stats, and these are always interesting. I mean, we all love numbers, just data, interesting stuff, what you guys are doing, et cetera. So just quick overall, and this is interesting. So our max concurrent devices all at once was 605. That was during trainings. Of those, it was about 601 on 5 gigahertz. But the reason we say that, and actually what we've been doing, so we've moved as far as possible to wireless. It's 2019. We don't need to wire all the training rooms, et cetera. There's plenty of this grown there. And so what we've done even within that to clear up the the airwaves that Mo has done here with Ruckus is basically move everything to 5 gigahertz. The frustrating thing is that we have people show up to a Black Hat course with their DoD laptop or their 1992 burner laptop because it's Black Hat and everybody's terrified. So everything's 2.4. So where we have to turn that on for somebody, we do, but we do generally try to move to 5 gigahertz for obviously stability reasons. Unique devices, so unique MAC addresses. The caveat here is that this obviously some devices rotate MACs, but we saw 1,700-ish devices on the network overall this show. Busiest APs is always fun. The trainers always try and, make this list. So good job, Mr. Searle.
They're cheering for yourself. You're welcome. Yay, me.
Yeah, always. 2.4 billion packets were written to disk as a little over 2 terabytes. Again, those are going to disappear here very shortly, so don't worry. And then as you can see, the amount of traffic by day. And the interesting thing that we always look at, this spike is the very beginning of classes. Don't mind the x-axis. That's it's days, I promise. But when you show up to classes, everybody plugs in for the first time and updates their machine because that's what happens here more than anything. Downloads the ISOs, whatever it is, to get going in those training rooms is where we see that. But the interesting trend here is that this is across all shows. We see that spike really high, but then we get into briefing. So people are doing their trainings. A lot of these trainings now are in the cloud, so the trainers have moved to other environments that we have to provide that stability, and there's a lot more traffic that way. When we get to briefings, everybody that's coming for not a training usually decides not to connect to the network. So they don't trust it, and that's an interesting trend that we see compared to other shows that Mo has done, that basically everybody stays, and it stays pretty level for the most part. But you guys are paranoid, so take off the tinfoil, I promise.
Also, I might have been zoning out. Did you say the busiest device? Like
no,
one particular user, like that one device, downloaded 62.2 gigs just over the course
of a lot of ISOs,
a couple days or whatever. So
ISOs.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. I think the stats were there was 35 just only, which I'm going to say only 35 gigs of BitTorrent traffic, and but maybe it's that guy. I don't know, but
there wasn't a new Game of Thrones or anything.
So here's our DNS stats. So this is one that we year over year we just watch the growth of the amount of traffic and requests that are going out. We had just over now we've surpassed 8 million DNS requests for 2019, which is up from roughly 7 million requests last year, which was up from 5.6 million the year before. So roughly 1 million additional requests a year, year over year. So we'll see if that
means the malware is getting noisier.
So, yeah, right. So we'll see how that continues to grow. So
evolution.
Let's talk about the NOC itself and how it changed. At some point, the lights went out. Now it's freaking me. I don't know what you guys are doing out there. It's making me a little bit nervous. So, however, there's a whole little group over here in the corner where the TV's lighting them up. It looks very cyberpunk. You guys you're killing it. ADHD, it's a thing. So evolution. So how did the NOC develop into the point that it is today? Well,
and continues.
And continues to develop. Initially, when I started out, my main focus was stability. It was just keeping the network up. The Black Hat network for the previous years before I got involved with the network was apparently just down at least half of the time, right? It just never worked. So that was the first goal. Let's get it working. The first year that I took over, it only went down for 15 minutes throughout the course of the conference. And then while checking on training rooms, one of the trainers said, "Hey, man, did the network go down before?" And I thought he was concerned, something happened. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, it did. Sorry about that." And he's like, "Yeah, I was showing them this vulnerability that's in the Cisco access points you're using." And so I'm like, Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. But yeah, so stability was huge. Obviously, then security. So again, we're trying to make sure that it is as secure as you can make a network of this type.
And in a way, that's 1A and 1B. Obviously, stability, people coming in, and the amount of money that you guys pay to be here and have that experience, especially in a training environment when your labs are in the cloud, et cetera, is very important. But obviously, again, security is not a second place to that by any means.
No, yeah, but part of that was also just segmentation. So most of the network was pretty flat back in the day, but the problem that arose from that was again just your charming personalities. Was one class would be an offensive class, and they were like, let's attack the defensive class and see if they notice, right? And so things like that happened, and so
things have changed from that to where we even had one year that there was media members that were literally attacking each other. We had a group of the media that after we'd even segmented the classrooms, that they were now in their own room, and one literally started DDoSing the other members of the media. Basically, I don't know if he could get his story out first or what, but it's interesting that we're like, all right, these guys will be okay. They're just media people writing stories. We've got the hackers taken care of, and it was like, gosh.
But then he became the story, I think, in some of those
He still
cases,
is the
right?
story.
Yeah.
This was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, but another thing was, okay, now we have things, carved up. We're doing whatever. Let's go hunting, right? So we wanted to get some visibility into what was actually taking place on the network, again, to try to find the bad within the bad. So that's when we brought in some other technology, a vendor not to be named, I think.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
What? Should we not talk? Okay.
I mean, they've
fine.
seen.
I don't, what?
Huh?
Anyway, I'm just going to say it because we're all friends here. So we initially had Splunk in the NOC, and I love Splunk, and I'm sure many of you love Splunk, but if you have worked with Splunk, you know that the care and feeding of Splunk is excessive. So to get what we needed to get out of it in the very short time frame that we had to stand up a network and build out dashboards and get reports going and do all that kind of stuff and start trying to hunt through data and things, it doesn't happen very quickly. And so in the end, it didn't work out. We ended up bringing in RSA and NetWitness years ago, and it just worked, which was great. And then it worked out really well for me because then they were like, we like you. You're fun to hang out with. You should come work for us. And I was like, you should give me money. And they were like, here's some money. And I was like, we work together. So anyway, then malware sandboxing. We had a friend who we had worked with at another conference. She was like, hey, we could do this at Black Hat. We said, we should do that at Black Hat, and Cisco Threat Grid gets involved. All right, so now we're doing malware sandboxing and taking a look at samples as they're crossing the wire. The endpoint piece was also, we were talking about like how do we get more visibility into what's happening on these like rented machines that are coming from company who
for
knows
registration.
What for
so the
registration.
machines where you guys walk up to the registration.
Yeah, not you guys. You guys will not install anything we give you.
We tried to do 802.1x a few years ago on a separate one, and then nobody wanted to install it.
Yeah, people were like, I'm not downloading and installing something from the Black Hat network. Are you insane? And we're like, it was a test. It wasn't a test. We were trying to see if
you'd do it.
If you would do it. You did not. So we were like, oh yeah, maybe we could do this. And then and RSA was like, hey, we have that too. And we were like, you do have that too. So we use NetWitness for endpoint on the registration machines.
To that same extent, though, that has also grown. So Palo Alto actually now, we do decrypt the SSL traffic within that registration network so that, again, we can see everything in that registration network, whether it's yours, ours, we can know that the good is good, and then there's nothing being exfilled just because it's encrypted, et cetera. So
again,
it's grown.
Just register. We're not trying to look at any of your stuff. We don't care. I mean, we care because we're nosy, but we don't care. But it is important to us, again, the registration stuff. And bringing all those things together, we were finding different things, like a significant amount of clear text credentials. We were finding people showing up on the network, and they were immediately sending out command and control traffic. We were seeing crypto mining activity that was taking place. But the amount of it was something that we did not expect, right? It was a fair amount. And it was something that in the past we had gone individually to rooms. Like if we saw somebody was infected with something, we would just go to the room and say, I need to talk to whoever is IP address blah, and somebody from the NOC came in and was like, who has this IP address? Like it was like, shame, as they walked to the back of the class to talk to us. But, you got to walk away at least knowing that you were owned. So but again, scale, right? The show grows, the number of devices grows, and the number of incidents like that start happening. So we decided to put into place automation as a way to, anytime we saw clear text credentials, like especially email, so if we have all your creds and we know what your email is because you're sending it all in the clear, well then we'll just send you an email. And we're like, hi, we're the NOC. Surprise, you're in the clear. And so we would send out an email in those cases, or in cases of crypto mining or command and control traffic, we would just essentially pop up like a captive portal that would say, like, we saw this activity coming from your device. If this is expected behavior, please disregard this. If not, you know, like,
Come
swing by the NOC and we'll let you know what we saw. And so we did that, and that was super cool. And
things change.
And then you can see there's a strike through there, and here's why. We mentioned that we partner with people and that we have, you know, vendors that are involved, and we're not doing just open source stuff. We're still doing open source things. We still have some scripts on things, other stuff like that. But because of that reliance on some other technologies, there was a relationship with one vendor and another vendor, and it was like, we're best friends. And then another company bought one of those pieces, and then they were like, we're not friends anymore. And we're like, oh no, automation, right? So then we had to like figure out, okay, what are we gonna do here so we can get the automation piece back? So now they're like, you know, we're not friends. And they're like, that's okay, I found another friend. And so now they have another friend, and we're working on getting automation back. We were hoping to have it done this show. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. We will have it rolled out for the Asia show in the spring. So,
but the flow of that and kind of where the partners have come in, and where the I think one of the big things that we've talked about with the partners, and we talked about it a little bit when we mentioned them earlier, but the one thing that's been amazing to us to see that's kind of just happened organically is the collaboration between the teams. I mean, that team that we show is we're family. There's a lot of we've gone through a lot of shows together. We've learned a lot, both on personal sides and technical sides. And as you can see here, this has really grown over time. That the automation between RSA, Ruckus, Palo Alto, and Cisco has really grown and become a major part of the NOC, and again, the relationships that happen here. So that automation was, again, the amount of incidents and the scale that we're dealing with here as far as the amount of incidents has caused us the concern that we needed to get into this. So what we've done in the flow here with a little human intervention, just so that we don't spam anybody or somebody doesn't figure that out.
Just to make it clear, like, this goes beyond the automation piece. Like, we can remove this. This data is still shared regardless of the automation. That's why it's in here.
But this is where it's grown, obviously, for the automation piece of that. And what we really want to point out is that these things grow, and for the betterment of you and us, we're customers and you know, do our day jobs as well. We have literally seen the partners implement features and different tools or different pieces of their product that make it into the real world that you as customers see because of how it's worked here at Black Hat. This is a very unique environment, if you haven't found out yet. So the type of traffic that they can see and go through and work with their product development teams and work with development engineering to make those a reality has been amazing to us, and it's really opened our eyes to the possibilities of some of these things. So we really just want to kind of pat them on the backs.
It is cool. Like, I mean, like, you see one of the partners like that, like, they'll turn to the other one and be like, oh my gosh, is that what our data looks like when we send it to you? My apologies. Like, we'll work on that. And then by the next show, whatever the thing was that was weird has been fixed. And that turnaround time is rapid, right? Because they're thinking, well, we're part of this team at Black Hat, and we have to make sure that we're like adapting to whatever is needed by not only the NOC team, but by the other extended NOC team as well. So that's been pretty fun. All right. So more stats. So yeah, encrypted versus dumb. We had 76.2% encrypted traffic this year, so yay! When we initially just started tracking the stats on it, we were at like 55, 60%, and we would see like little incremental increases. And then when GDPR happened, like you guys jumped up quite a bit.
It's interesting to see how much it fluctuates show to show, though.
Yeah, like
Not
so
show to show, but region to region.
Region to region, yeah. So we would have the London show and the Vegas show were about on par with each other, encrypted versus unencrypted traffic. Asia was just like, has always been like 90+% encrypted traffic. And we're always just like, oh, they really know what they're doing here. And then I had a conversation with somebody and I said, like, what's the deal? Like, you guys just, like, you encrypt everything here. And they were like, yeah, well, we don't trust our government. And I was like, fair play.
Had you worded it, they said that your government will just get mad at you. Our government will make us disappear. So it's
Right.
It's perspective.
I was like, okay. And then I fired up my VPN. Yeah, and then looking at obviously like TLS here, we're quite happy to report very, 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 very little TLS 1 and 1.1. Overwhelmingly, it is TLS 1.2. So yay. Also, email security. You guys, you're killing it.
Generally, email is the biggest piece of the unencrypted pie, so it's good to see that going up.
Yeah, it's nice. When we started looking through the traffic and thing, historically, what we were seeing was about 1 in 3 emails are unencrypted, and that was the same in the U.S. as it was here. It is one of the other things I do. I got kind of like roped into a thing where it's like, oh, hey, we want to do what you guys do at the NOC at Black Hat at RSA conference. And so we do, so I'm part of the SOC team for RSA conference as well. And it is the same there, 1 in 3 emails unencrypted. But
it's not all encrypted.
Yeah, like this, yeah, it's not. There's, but this show, a significant uptick in encrypted email. So awesome. We're really, really stoked to see that. But to Bart's point, it's not all encrypted. So there, like, this was crazy. And I chased this down. So I was just looking through stuff and I saw some IMAP traffic coming across. And I actually had to just keep deleting stuff out of here to make. Yeah, they can see it. They're back there. If they do, they do. I tried. I figured it was small enough. You guys probably wouldn't be able to read it, but. But that's someone's inbox. That's the folders in their freaking inbox, and there was so much personal data just in the names of the folders and like people that they were important to them that they had made their own folders for. Real estate things, even some health, stuff that was in there. And we're like, this is the craziest inbox ever. And then it was like the global whatever, like when I chased it down, what it is somebody who is in charge of a very large team of information security professionals for a very, very large company that hosts their own mail server poorly. So this is like their private email that is, again, with this data leakage thing, because I'm like, if I wanted to construct a social engineering campaign, all of the pieces are in this inbox. In the structure, not just like I'm not looking at their email. Well, I could look at their email, I have their login and password, but this is just, flying across the wire. If I wanted to build a campaign out of this, it's all there, right? But they also host the mail at their last name as the domain. So I'm like, you are killing it.
It's not all encrypted.
There was also, and this one was just for fun, I was looking through some other stuff and some things came across and I was like, wait, what is that? And then it's like a PDF and I'm like looking at it and it was somebody's got tickets for going to the London Eye tomorrow. So if we get there first, we're sightseeing for free. But that's just the kind of stuff that leaks out from something as benign as like, oh, you might get your ticket to the London Eye sniped to I have the username and password to an extensive inbox sorted with all kinds of ridiculous information that you are just firing across the internet in the clear, person who works for a company that most bad actors would just love to attack.
Which,
So,
if we're being honest, the providers should also provide that encrypted,
Yeah.
but you guys can do better at the show as well. Can't.
I love that gift so much.
So this was an interesting one that we were actually talking to Mo again as far as wireless stuff just the other day, and there were some things that we were curious about whether it might not be a rogue AP. And in her entire time, I don't know if we just kind of led ourselves into this. She said we have not seen any rogue AP since she has been at Black Hat. So what happened today? So there have been some small things that we've seen, some really unique tools, some small hardware that we've talked about before that we found somebody threw, like it was a one-time use 3D printed case with a AA battery, that it was just a very basic chip that was literally just throwing D off. So
Yeah, it was a lot of effort.
it was that they just
I
threw
was
in like a
man.
planter base in Vegas that we literally had to like track down. It was one of the weirdest things.
But if you guys want to throw hardware around
yeah, we
the
kept
site,
the hardware.
like
Thanks.
dope. I love free hardware. I don't care if it's a $3 Wi-Fi chip. If it's free, it's me.
So we actually saw Rogue APs, and to Mo and Ruckus's credit, they definitely have policies in place that as soon as that happens, we fight back. So
No,
we
but
will-
what was funny about that was that Heather Mo, she came to us and she's like, hey, can I just like knock these guys? Seeing this, can I just knock the crap out of them on the network? And we're like, hell yeah, get them. And then she came back and she's like, never mind. I'd already had policies in place to do it. I just forgot. Like, it's like,
So as soon as they see any Ruckus MAC, any of our MAC addresses, any of our SSIDs, they will automatically fight back and de-auth at that point based on the policy. So this was unique to us, and like I said, we kind of walked ourselves into it talking about it, and then literally the next
this
day,
guy was moving around too.
He was.
Like
So
all
was-
over the
somebody had a
space, like
pineapple
trying to
walking
do
around.
stuff. And that's why I was like, oh, Jason Street's training
That guy
class just
screws up
just gave away like 40 Wi-Fi pineapples, like, you know. So I'm like,
You owe us 5 hugs, Jason.
crazy kids. So this was one that was interesting that we just thought like we're like, oh, well, cool.
That can be bad.
I mean, you can read the bullet points right there. It really just speaks for itself. Corporate Jira, open to the internet using HTTP, unique ID and token in the clear.
Dollar bill.
I was like, do whatever you want, right? So again, like this is the type of stuff that's flying around Black Hat. Right?
We've talked about things in the past where Big Fix or other tools, corporate tools, have come onto the environment that we've seen. Basically, they were doing, you know, your discovery for you and throwing out patch levels, et cetera. But that is definitely something that should be resolved at a corporate level. However, it's the whole trust but verify. So if you're using it on the Black Hat network, again, you should probably be in your own VPN, whether it's HTTP or HTTPS. Obviously deal with that, but at a corporate level in an environment where, again, most of you guys, just like us, go back to our day job and deal with this type of thing. So again, verify that everything's done in the right way, because everybody thinks they're doing the right thing and we just trust each other and it's done that way, and then you show up at Black Hat and we get to tell you you're not.
And overwhelmingly, when we do approach people and say like, hey, here's an issue, if we're
They
able
fight
to
back.
do that, they say, no, that's not the case.
And then you tell them
Yeah.
that's how much you owe on your house, or this.
Yeah, that was a scenario in the U.S. show this year. Somebody was transferring a significant amount of financial documents across the network in the clear. And so I was like, all right, well, let's see what class they're in, whatever. I went and found the guy, and I was like, dude, VPN, like, seriously. And he's like, I am connected to a VPN. And I'm like, I can see all your traffic in the clear. He's like, no, I'm connected to VPN. Look, I can show you the agent. It's connected right now. And I was like, okay, but this is how much you owe on your house. And he was like, oh no. Right? And I'm like, what are you doing uploading that kind of sensitive stuff at Black Hat anyway? And it was like, well, my son's going to university in 2 weeks, and I needed to upload it all for financial aid. And I'm like, oh, cool. Well, the university does not use any kind of secure transfer, and neither do you. So
I think that one was literally, again, a misconfiguration.
Yeah, it was
the tunneling or whatever it was at that point.
it was just misconfigured.
Verify,
Obviously,
verify,
this
verify.
misconfigured. So just make sure that those things are taken care of. This one, you can see the title there is "We're Sorry." I didn't see this until today. I was doing some hunting. I saw some interesting stuff in web queries. I was like, well, that's a block of crazy. And so I started looking at some of the sessions, and I noticed a very short user agent, which isn't standard, right? So, and that's, by the way, like that's what threat hunting is. As a threat hunter, I will say, like you'll go down and vendors will be like, threat hunting, threat hunting, threat hunting. It is not magic. There's no wizardry. It's just looking for weird stuff. But you know, a lot of threat hunters and people who want to sell you threat hunting technology will tell you that like you need to be like some crazy wizard. I am proof that that is not true.
And in some cases, though, if we would have seen this, we could have put them with our automation. So that's another weird story.
Yeah.
It could have been in there that we could have presented somebody that. So again, that will be fixed.
I do has a sad about it, but I looked for the user agent. It was unique. It was you know, something that where we looked up the domain and it was absolutely malware. It was beaconing once every 15 minutes. Like we're just like, oh, okay, we totally missed that. So whoever this individual is out there, I'm sorry, you're still owned. I didn't get to tell you. And we have 10 minutes left, we were just told. So thank you. Do you have any questions?
I like the awkward silence too. First,
I can't. If you need to just shout it out, you're pitch black back there.
We can hear.
So.
Who said that? Questions. There's always questions. I like that. All right.
This was the same thing.
Yeah, but then
last time. The light came on.
Oh, here we go.
It's Jeff Moss.
That guy.
Yeah. I've spotted the dark tangent. No questions?
They'll get you. We'll hear you.
Yeah.
Yell really loud.
Hello? Thanks, guys, for the talk. My question is, what kind of advice would you give to kind of stay secure at somewhere like this?
What advice would we give? I
think it's the same stuff.
It's honestly, I mean, it's
and
the
most
same
people
thing
are trying.
You guys give to anyone, which is just like patch your stuff, like use a VPN, or just don't get on at all.
But on top of that, even when you're using a VPN to that very extent, go home and run Wireshark and do a couple of things before you come to the Black Hat event and do that. So I think there's things there, know what you're doing, verify. It's the same stuff that we'd say to anyone on a corporate, a Starbucks environment. Any of those pieces should be the exact same thing that you do here. And we'll do our part to keep you safe from each other because y'all are crazy. But verify. Trust but verify. Everything. Oh, and patch before you get here. That's one of the biggest amounts of traffic that we see. So if you're patching, just do it before you get here.
Really, the largest amount of traffic that gets transferred.
Somebody's going to eventually just stand up a Microsoft server
one
here.
Guy over there, and then there'll be another one up here when.
Go ahead.
Hello, so I've seen your TLS stats, but there is no TLS 1.3 here. So is your tool not measuring 1.3, or was there not at all 1.3 on the network?
Nobody used it here. No, I don't.
Not here.
Didn't see any.
No. Yeah. So there you go. We saw it in Vegas. Didn't see it here. So I think, where was it? Right here, up front.
I imagine sometimes you need to track someone down specifically. You need the specific person, not just an area.
Sure.
But do you do that?
Again, so that was where if we're looking for a particular individual, but we don't have, because when it comes to the training classes, we can say, okay, well, this portion of a subnet is assigned to that class. They're going to be in that classroom. If they're out wandering a hall or during the briefings where everybody's bouncing around, that's why we deliver things with a captive portal. So the next time that they go to try to browse to something, they get a notification that says like, oh, hey, there's this. If it is somebody who's attacking something, the network is all wireless here. In Vegas, we had one guy who came with Ruckus, Mo's friend, who just ran around. Yeah, he looked like Egon Spengler, like he was like wandering around, like trying to find who it was. And then he's like, that guy. So
There is unique pieces to that, but the automation was a big way that we tried to solve that for that very reason.
And honestly, this is gonna sound maybe dumb, but like I don't care about catching someone if they're doing something or whatever. I just want it to stop so that they're not affecting you guys. So if we can mitigate it without having to be like, oh, get the cops, oh, get security over here. Like, I'm anti-authoritarian, as most of you probably are. I'm like, whatever. Like, I don't, like, you kids are fun. You have your fun and do whatever. But I'm not really interested in getting someone in trouble.
And even where we present the captive portal, it's not, there's nothing bad. That was, again, informational. We wanted to give that back to you guys.
That was also not an invitation. Like, to just be like, well, he doesn't care.
So it was more trying to provide what we can back, because again, we're the same people. So if we can help educate anybody, because we can see it, and we don't have the same setup at home either, so we wouldn't necessarily see the same thing with our own individual devices. So if that's something that we can provide education, information, that was where that came from. Outside of that, before it was just your own. You just showed up on our network just like you'd show up on Starbucks. So it's not in tracking down anybody to wrestle.
Yeah. Somebody asked a question earlier today where they said, like, do you profile attendees as well, that they might be the, might be the person who would be most likely to attack something or whatever. And I'm like, no. Like, we profile traffic. Like, we don't care.
And 100% of the people that show up here would profile as the people that would do that.
Yeah, that's true. You guys are all in that bucket with us.
Otherwise you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Any more?
Have you never had to?
So the question was, have we ever had to track somebody down? The only time that there was a legitimate
scary
crime, it was in Las Vegas, and it was something that was done outside of our network and was done by passing traffic through a hotel room and all this other stuff. The teams of security, they're good at security at casinos, both physical and electronic. The cybers, they're good at the cybers. And so I suggest you do not try to do anything stupid on a casino network.
We've seen illegal things, but also
they will
to that extent, we just tell them stop before the cops come talk to you. So on our network,
that was
too insane.
Honestly, in all my time with Black Eye, that's the only time I can recall somebody actually being hauled away. But they knew that they were pushing traffic through their hotel room, and they knew exactly who they were because they were registered there, right? So
in their hotel room.
Yeah.
Smart.
They're they're waiting on the bed for him to come in.
It's like hackers. It's hackers. Filtering themselves out. Any more?
Anyone? I think. All right. Well, thank you guys
all
for
very
coming,
much.
and we'll
see you next year.
See you next year.